Introduce Lynetta Presley. She is a TAM and a FinOps specialist at Google. Today she's going to be taking the first half of this call. She's going to be kind of going over just the idea of what FinOps is. Just so you all are aware, we have a FinOps organization at D&B. It includes myself, Spencer Phillips, as well as Travis Cole, who's also on the call here, and we're led by Archana. So the three of us are kind of our FinOps lead. We've been working behind the scenes. You probably had us bugging you about, turning off, nodes that are not in use, or, making sure that, spend is within forecast and matching with our finance forecast. But we wanted to kind of give a primer about, hey, here's what the FinOps organization is about. And then the second half of this call, we'll go over some of the tools that the FinOps team uses, and how you all can use it to help kind of track your spending and your tools, so we can make sure that you guys are all developing in probably the most cost-effective ways that we can. So Lynetta, take it away.
Wonderful. Thanks for that, Spencer. I'm so happy to be here. My name is Lynetta Presley. I am a technical account manager with Google Cloud. I've been with the company for about 4 years, and I work out of the New York City office. And so today we're going to just talk about cost management on Google Cloud as it pertains to FinOps. So just 4 things from me on the agenda before I hand it over to Spencer. And we're just going to go over just FinOps in general, in addition to some cost management best practices, as well as some references for you at the end. And so just in general, what is FinOps? And so it's not necessarily a literal question, but more of a rhetorical one, in the fact that there's many definitions for FinOps if you Googled it. And so this one's kind of wordy, but basically, at the core of it all, it's just, bringing teams together to make sure that the money that you spend on cloud is delivering business value. And so that's at the core of it all what we're trying to do. And this is not necessarily a Google Cloud definition, but more so cloud agnostic. So it pertains to, all organizations, whether they're on, just using one cloud or multi-cloud. And so how do we, do this? It's through 3 things, really. It's having a cloud first process, in addition to, the employees themselves, as well as tools and technology. And through any of this, please feel free to interrupt along the way if you have questions or if you need clarification. I tend to speak a little fast sometimes, so feel free to interrupt me at any time.
Yeah, feel free to raise your hand or anything like that.
Oh, yeah.
Of course. Sorry, Lynetta.
Exactly. Yeah, no worries. So yeah, who's responsible for FinOps? And so we believe that everybody is. If you utilize cloud services, you're responsible for your costs, and the actions that you take can have a huge impact on that. And so a central FinOps team, though, just sits in the middle and is really the bridge between the cloud teams and finance. It's cross-functional, but they should have knowledge, from their areas, to be the SMEs for their teams who are looking to get the most out of their usage. The FinOps team is responsible for ensuring all teams have the right access to their cost data that they need. They help educate, evangelize, train, and they bring new teams on board. It doesn't have to be staffed full time, meaning that you don't have to go out and hire, a FinOps professional per se. These people can moonlight as FinOps, evangelists during their daytime hours. It can be virtual, and then you can just gradually scale up. All right, so this one's a bit of it's a lot. So usually we spend a few hours on this slide, but I'm just going to spend a couple minutes on it, honestly, to just unpack for you really quickly the framework. And so the FinOps Foundation defined 3 key stages to the FinOps lifecycle. It's inform, operate, and optimize. On top of that, though, we have you know, additional ethics is what we call them, or capabilities that go with each one of these areas. And so when we have like our full scale FinOps workshops, we go through each of these with organizations, in addition to the 50 core capabilities that Google has identified, but I won't go into those details now. But just know that FinOps is more than just cost optimization. It is more than just, you know, how can I lower my cloud costs? And so just wanted to like let you know that, you know, there's a whole world of it out there, right? And it is iterative in nature. So this is ongoing. We don't always get it right the first time. And even if it was right this particular day, a year from now, it's going to be completely different because, you know, this cloud transformation journey and the tech that's involved with it is steadily growing. All right, so let's take a look at cost management and start with the basics. So the shift to the cloud, just in general, promises accelerated innovation, increased efficiency, and reduced costs. But if you've been around cloud enough, you know that those cost savings that, you know, is touted and expected are not always realized. And so when moving to the cloud, you're going from like the traditional CapEx model to like an on-demand OpEx model. And so that means the budgeting is no longer like a one and done type thing. It is continual. And so you need to be able to monitor and control your spending on an ongoing basis just due to the dynamic nature of the cloud. And that's why, you know, cloud cost management tools are so important. These tools let you manage, monitor, control, allocate, and optimize your cloud costs. And so Google Cloud's cost management tools, they give you the visibility, accountability, control, and intelligence so that you can scale your business in the cloud with confidence. Really, the goal is to make it as simple as possible to give you the visibility that you need into your current and forecasted costs. And this is through like reporting dashboards. You can get greater accountability for your spend across the organization in flexible ways by organizing your resources and allocating your costs. Then you can drive strong financial governance controls to reduce the risk of overspending. And then we offer intelligent recommendations for optimizing your costs and usage. All right, so let's take a look at resource management before we talk about all the tools we have. And this is just a way to organize your resources, but it plays a key role in helping you to understand your bill. And so this looks very familiar. It's very basic in nature, but the point we want to drive here is to think about how you organize value in your organization. Because the way that you manage your costs and you mirror that to the way that you organize your work. And so, you know, typical, you have your org at the top, you've got your folders under, you know, each one of your folders, you've got your projects, inside your projects, you've got your resources. And then, you know, you have your labels along the way. And so your labels are included in your detailed billing export data. This one may or may not look familiar, just kind of depends on how Dun& Bradstreet is set up. This particular diagram.
I was going to cut in, Lynetta, sorry. I was going to say the one way here that we really look at how we do it as well is, again, yeah, we have our you know, the folders and projects. I know a lot of our teams are really good at their separate projects, but for on our FinOps team side, one thing that we do to really keep track of things is those labels specifically. So yeah, I know the labels are the real important thing there, especially with how we have our DRNs set up. So we usually, the DUNS resource number for you, Lynetta, but how we have our DRN set up is the main way that we track how our spend is done. So making sure that your resources and projects are tagged properly. I mean, it's required. So if it's not tagged, I believe it gets shut down. But making sure that you have those items tagged properly gives us the ability to be able to track those costs properly, or else it's going to be a situation where we're looking at your spend and you're going to say, that's weird. I thought I spun up, 10 VMs. And if it wasn't tagged properly, it might be in someone else's bucket. They have those 10 VMs. So you want to make sure you tag up your resources properly. It's the main way so that we are able to track things, because if not, it's going to be a lot more difficult for us to track those things. So yeah, what you're saying, Lynette, about the tagging is the primary thing for sure.
Definitely,
Yeah.
100% agree. Go ahead, Travis.
Yeah, so just to add on to what, Lynette and Spencer had said, right? So, as long as you're following DMB process for standing these resources, Backstage is going to force you to select the tags that you need, right? So you're going to be forced to do at least 3 tags: environment, DRN, and resource name on anything that is taggable or labelable, as well. It doesn't sound like a word. I don't know if it is, but I'm going to use it anyway. And then, so, and when we're doing these cost allocations and in all of our tooling, you will see us using these DRNs to map back to applications. We ultimately, right, if there's a resource tag, we're utilizing that. If there's no resource tag, we're using the tag or label that you set on the project when it was initially set up. So that's something to keep in mind when we're looking at these kinds of things. And then, yeah, as far as our structure goes, right, it's very similar to this, except we don't. Sorry, what was that?
Yeah.
Oh, is someone off mute? I think you can keep going, Travis.
Okay. Yeah, I was just going to say, we do have a very hierarchical view like this, except for we have a top layer of prod and non-prod for our network configuration differences. Yep. With that, I'll let Lynette get back to it.
All right, cool. All right, so you are well on your way. Going to the next slide then, because it seems as if this one, you've got it all down pat. So kudos to you, because it doesn't always happen that way.
For sure.
So financial governance. So that's where, the labeling, the strategy is so important, because it leads to this, right? As you scale, as your demands grow, as your business grows, you still maintain that control to scale in a financial way, right? With your financial governance. And you can restrict usage and costs where it just doesn't make sense to your business, right? And that's the biggest flex, honestly, from a FinOps perspective of being in the cloud. All right, so here's some key questions that I just kind of put together on this slide, and they're not necessarily rhetorical, but you can answer, them in a vague way or in a detailed way. But these are questions you should probably ask about your infrastructure and your applications, even though the level of detail varies, right? And so regardless of who's answering, I think that the answers will probably be similar. It doesn't matter if it's like the CIO or like an engineering manager or the application owner. What's the value and the cost of my applications? How are they trending? What are the drivers? And how can I optimize my costs? And so these should always be answerable, especially within cloud. And this is how we make it easy for you with our tools. And so you can start off using like a billing report if you have access. This shows you, what your current trends are from a billing standpoint, as well as what your forecasted costs are going to be. And all of these can be analyzed over a period of time by billing account, by project, by product. You can also use a pricing calculator. You don't necessarily need special permissions to do this, to use this tool. And I think I have the link here in the deck if you want to go back and check it, or you can just Google it. But let's just say you've got I know, right? Thanks. let's just say you've got a POC coming up, you want to do like a quick, estimate of what it's going to cost. You put a landing zone together, stand one up, and do this quick POC. You can do it, via the pricing calculator, and all of the major products are there at the top for you, to kind of get, like I said, an estimate of what the cost will be. And then we, can look at cost controls. Ooh, hard to say. All right, so the first place to look at cost controls is budget and alerts. Budgeting, super easy to set up in Google Cloud. You can set it up at the billing account level. And what you're actually doing is just choosing a group of projects and or products and setting up a budget against that group. And then when you set up a budget, you pick the amount that you want to spend. So let's just say maybe it's like 50K, right? And then you can set up a threshold. So for example, 50% to 70% to get alerts when those thresholds are reached. So if your budget set up for 50K, you've got a 50% threshold. Once it gets to 75, you'll get an alert. So you can set an alert also that uses forecast amounts. So this way you'll get an alert when Google thinks you'll be reaching those thresholds. And then when you get notified, you can go back to that billing report and analyze and see what's being spent, and try to figure out whether there was a spike, whether it was expected or not. Another tool we have is quotas. So quotas is different from budgets in that quotas is actually set at the resource or the API level. So if you want to control, for instance, like how many times per second someone is calling an API, you can put a quota on that. Or you want to control how many machines you want spun up, put a quota on that. You can also control the amount of data that can be queried in BigQuery each day. So quotas are very useful to kind of cap your usage.
I think it's a great item for, I know we have a lot of engineers on here. It's a great tool to make sure that we don't accidentally have a out of control spend on things, because we've seen that in the past, and the FinOps team has caught it, but it's still one of those things where it's like, well, it's a way to keep it from happening in the first place is if you put those quotas in place to prevent out of control spend.
Yeah, definitely. And taking a look at the chat, Peter had a good point from his security eye. Sharing billing information. Yeah, exactly. Agree with that. And so, yeah, in automation, we love automation, right? You can automate these cost control responses. Once again, you can send out messages on Teams notifications when you hit a budget threshold alert, things like that. So those can be set up so that not one person gets an alert, but you have a group of people who can action against those alerts. Sorry, I lost my tab. Okay. All right, and so now we have oops, I think skipped the slide. Active Assist. So Active Assist is a product portfolio, and it is a collection of recommendations, insights, intelligence, machine learning, and it's basically designed to help our customers proactively optimize their cloud security, their performance, and their costs. So some of you may be familiar with the Recommendation Hub. It's been around for a little while. But what I want to just preface before we take a look at this closer is the difference between an insight versus a recommendation. So I think this is really good in the fact that like an insight shows you, oh, well, you've had a VM that's had, low CPU utilization for the past 10 days. That's an insight. It's an observed event. A recommendation is, hey, you can resize this VM to a much smaller machine type and you can save, $30 a month. That is a recommendation. All right. So taking a little bit closer, we have an example here. And so this is Steve. He's in charge of an app. He is, the lead architect. He set up the infrastructure for this application, and it's been smooth sailing. And so Steve now is a local celebrity in the fact that his application is super popular thanks to COVID and people being at home. And now, lots of traffic going through his application every day. Now, with that celebrity, Steve has encountered many problems. And so now his app is so popular, he's starting to have performance issues, in addition to the fact that the finance director has tapped him on the shoulder because now his cloud usage cost has skyrocketed. And so Steve has got a lot of problems. He's not exactly sure what he should do next, but he remembers that there's a solution that might be able to help called Active Assist. And he remembers that the goal is to help folks like him optimize their cloud with recommendations and tools to reduce administrative overhead. So he pulls up the recommendations hub, focuses on the cost optimization cards this time, and right away, he sees some recommendations for his application's compute, storage, and billing. He's already familiar with right sizings. He's already done that for performance. And so he starts with something that looks a little familiar and appears to be geared towards cost savings. And so there's a number of VMs here that's in his project that are way too large for the tasks they have been allocated for. And so he applies the recommendations that's listed and realizes substantial cost savings by removing this extra compute capacity his project didn't really need, right? So he's like, okay, well, that seemed to be pretty smooth, not too much trouble. And so after addressing that over provisioning, he turns to unused resources where it turns out that another major contributor to the high cloud spend that the finance director brought up is just unused VMs. See, these are just sitting idle in his project, probably from like previous testing or maybe like the last development sprint. So he looked at the list, but he didn't expect to see this many, although he knows that people just spin up VMs and forget about them, right? So while he's on the topic, he just takes a look closer and he sees some idle resource recommendations, and they are a few persistent disks in his project still, and they haven't been utilized either. So more savings he gets to realize by deleting most of the idle PDs and archiving the rest in cold storage. So those three actions that Steve has taken already, thanks to Active Assist in the recommendations hub, that has lowered the cost in his project so far. Any questions? I can't see, sorry. Not yet? Cool.
I think we're good.
All right. So one thing I would like to note though, while I'm oversimplifying this, and if you've ever gone into the recommendations hub and seen the list, it will give you like a significant number. It'll tell you, oh, you can save $211 a month if you follow all of these things and remove these idle VMs or these unused resources. But while our machine learning and our algorithms and all of our Google magic that goes into making these recommendations, they may be accurate. However, they don't know your business, right? So go through these lists and make sure that it won't cause any harm to any performance of your application or any dependencies that other teams may have on these resources. All right. So that is my number one suggestion. Please make sure that there aren't any dependencies before you remove these resources. All right. So let's move on with Steve. And now we move into cuts. And so he looked into committed use discounts like a few months ago, and it just seemed way too hard at the time. And he was too tired to kind of go through putting together like a case for, subscribing to any committed use discounts. And what he would have had to do was basically just start putting together like the usage patterns for his application, and then figure out like what are the trade-offs, right? Should he do a 1 year? Should he do a 3 year? How does that compare to like the current discounts he was already getting? And then, putting all of that and all of the numbers together, he just didn't have time for. So now with Active Assist, already the heavy lifting has been done for him. He grabs a screenshot with the projected savings. He sends it to the finance director along with procurement, and he gets the approval to switch from on-demand pricing to a new 3-year commitment that's slashing his compute costs by almost 50%. So yay to Steve. One other thing I would probably say about this, obviously, heavy lifting's already done. However, still go through this very carefully to make sure that you're purchasing, the compute that you actually use, especially for commits, because if, regardless of whether you use it or not, you still have to pay for it. So the recommendation is just to do smaller commits little by little, to make sure that you're getting the most from your commitment. All right, and then
go
ahead.
One thing, Travis.
Yeah, I just had one thing on the commitments. If you're planning on moving forward with a commitment, please make sure to reach out to myself and Spencer before purchasing anything. We do like to manage everything across the entire organization and purchase larger where possible versus every single project just managing the commitments in their own.
Makes it easier when it comes down the road when we need to renew them. We don't want to renew 1,600 commitments versus 6 of them, So yeah, we also have to get approval from finance too. So if you are interested in a CUD, reach out to us. We can work with you to make sure that we aren't over permissioned as well.
Sounds good. Yeah, definitely. Especially when you can do project sharing and things like that.
Yeah, we have project sharing on. So yeah, well, that's a big one. That's one thing we love about Google stuff for sure.
Awesome. All right, so we can take that one step further as well, as Steve moves on to the other billing model optimization opportunities he sees in Active Assist. So they've been using BigQuery as a data warehouse already. And so with the popularity of his app, the usage with BigQuery is also growing. And so their current on-demand billing model is just spiking very high. And so with this recommendation for Steve's project to consider switching to slot billing model. And so that way teams can run as many queries as they need on a fixed amount of monthly slots. And so, this is based on his team's usage history. Active Assist has estimated they will save a lot on their bill without negatively impacting performance. And so that's one of the caveats. It's a really big caveat when you do a BigQuery slot recommender and you look at using fixed slots. And so please remember that, it should be calculated based on a lot of different things in addition to usage patterns to make sure there's no impact to performance. All right, so I went through a lot. Steve has done a lot here. And while it seems as if, he had it all together, he really took some time, maybe even this happened over the course of months, in order to eventually start, putting some of those recommendations into action. Not all recommendations will be actioned against. Most of them actually don't, because once again, your business more than the algorithm does. So just wanted to showcase, though, how broad and deep Active Assist really can be for you in other areas of Google Cloud. In addition to like security, you have cost, networking, compute data, and operations. All right, let's look at some best practices. I've only got 7 because we're coming up to the end now. And so, thankfully, the D&B team, they are so on it. They've done a lot of these already, including enabling BigQuery export for your billing already. Strong labeling strategy. We've kind of talked about that to supercharge your reporting. Taking advantage of discounts as your usage grows. Forecasting info to the business. Plan ahead of the budget and reforecast frequently. We prefer cost reporting to invoice inspection. Basically, cost reporting is the why of your invoice, right? So setting up your default budgets and quotas for your projects that you wish to cap, and your central cloud FinOps team. So those are, like I said, just most of our general best practices. Dun & Bradstreet are already on it, where they have already achieved most of these. All right, and so here's some references at the end. We've got some hands-on training you can do, some wonderful YouTube videos that you can watch, including one on Active Assist, and some great white papers and blog articles as well. Any questions? All right, that's it for me. And thanks for your time and attention. I'm gonna hand it back over to Spencer now.
Awesome. Thank you, Lynetta. That was really informative. I think everyone really helped out a lot with a lot of us. I know a lot of the team, we've done a lot with our FinOps stuff, but we want to make sure it's advertised to everyone as well, the work that we're doing and how they can impact it as well. So I think this helps a lot. So we wanted to take this second half of the call, Travis and myself, to kind of go over some of the tools we have currently for our FinOps thing. So I know a lot of you probably have heard about Apptio. Apptio is our tool that we are using currently to kind of bring together all of our cloud spend, so both GCP and AWS, as well as our on-prem resources that we have within Sono, to basically bring those all together into one big bundle. So we have a one-stop shop where you can kind of see all of that data together. Travis, do you want to present? I know it's more your baby, so you'd probably have a better presentation on that one.
I can cover some of the basic reporting we have and some of the advanced features.
For sure.
There's a lot of stuff, so I may have to go a little fast just to get through all the data we have, but definitely reach out to myself or Spencer and we can set up more guided walkthroughs with you and your team. Yeah, we can tailor fit it for you. We can create you certain views so we're focusing on your application specifically.
So I think a lot of you do have access to this. If you don't, again, feel free to post, either in the chat or reach out to us through an email or Teams if you do not have access to any of these tools, and we can easily get you access so you guys can get in there and start seeing everything you want to see. So take it away, Travis. I see that we have cost transparency up here.
Yeah, so this is our, our total view of all of our expenses, right, across GCP, AWS, and Sono. You can see by application, right? I'm just gonna pick one, and we can also drill down into the actual usage details in terms of the item descriptions, the names, those kinds of things. All of this is available. If you don't have access, reach out. We can get you access. This can be pivoted by looking at the total infrastructure. If we're looking at Sono, you'll see it by server, storage, etc. So this is our top level reporting. We also, just to link to some things that we talked about today, we do gather forecast for all of these applications, meeting with each CTO direct and the relevant app teams to discuss where we project those costs coming in, right? So you can see what the actual expense was versus forecast for the month. This is sent to senior leadership on a monthly basis and presented going forward for any overages and anything going under. And as we are gathering that forecast from you and your teams, any increase greater than 25K now is required to go to SSPR for Mike's approval for the spend. And anything that went over will be reported to Mike for his consideration. Once again, this is informational mostly. On the other side of things, we also have cloudability. This is more real-time focused, right? So while what I just showed you is to look at costs over time, this is a daily view, and we can create views, right? So the default views is each leader's team, and then as teams request their specific application, right, we'll start to create views. So we can create those views for you for your specific application, and you can come in here and everything will be tailor fit to exactly what you're looking for, right? So just a few things on here, right? This is the landing dashboard. This is totally configurable. You can add widgets, you can edit widgets, you can delete widgets. These are some of the things that I find most important. You may look at things a little differently, but you can see the daily usage cost over, right, the last 60 days is what this is configured. This is monthly estimated spend. And these are a couple other things that I have just for administration purposes for making sure this data is as clean as possible. Just checking. I don't think we have any questions at this time. So
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, what?
Oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So a couple of the key areas we like to focus on here, right? And these were touched on during the presentation. So it looks like the view I selected has no anomalies, but I'll close that out. So basically what this is looking at is if there was unusual spend, right? And as soon as that happens, right? So this is saying, okay, cloud logging, right? The cost total was 2,500, 1,700 of that was unusual. We can look at the details. You can see, right? There's been no logging. Now all of a sudden there's massive amounts, right? So this can actually be configured to email you, right? So if in your view there is a anomaly for your application, you can set up, right? And you get to create what you want to be notified of. So, you can alert on a spend threshold, any unusual spend over $500, or you can do a percentage, or you can do both, right? So you could say anything over 500 or anything over 10% anomalous, please send to me, right? Because, even if it's $100, if it's $100 that you're not expecting every single day, right, that could amount
That's
to something.
$3,000 a month.
Exactly.
And if it's an app, if it's an app that's $10,000 a month normally, that's a pretty big spike. So.
And then this can be tailored to your actual view, right? So as we set up your team's view, you can create it for just your team, so you only see alerts that are relevant to your projects. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but if it's not my project and I have no control, I can't control if they're spending more than they should. On top of that, there also is a lot of optimization as well. So you can see here, right across all of our cloud usage, it's about $942,000 that can be right-sized at this time. This is just the overview. If we actually go into the details, right, we can see we can optimize GCE, so Google Compute Engine, managed instance groups, and persistent disk. Persistent disk is largely usually the largest. And then each of these, not only will we have all the details, it'll actually tell you why, right? So here's an example of one. What this is saying is that this resource, right, here's the current size, here's the current IOPS, and it's looking at what it's been using, which is the blue line. You can see that it stopped. I think this instance in particular was already decommed, and it may have been decommed as it was called out in here, because it was not being used. But this will look at throughput and the IOPS actual usage and recommend, right, either rates, and you can see here it gives you 3 different options, right? So the highest recommendation is to right size this. Like, if you need to keep it, let's shrink it. It doesn't need to be as big as it is. Let's do this. Second recommendation is, just get rid of it. It's not being used.
And as you can see on that one, it has a little risk pip on it, the little square at the bottom to show that there's a risk on the second one for the terminate. And that's probably because at one point there was even for like maybe an hour or a couple minutes, some usage. So it's saying that, there's a little bit of risk on this because it was used at that one point. However, it's one of those situations where this is a tool we need the engineer's assessment to understand the actual usage of it. So
yeah, that's a great call out. So I mean, the main recommendation is always going to be the lowest risk. But the most savings with the lowest risk, right? So you can also see there's one that with less savings. Also, it has less risk as well. But Cloudy is saying, based on the history of this box, right? It's never used more than this size. So let's size it down to this. This one is basically saying, okay, maybe you plan on using it more, right? So on that, it is a great point, is maybe this box was just stood up, we're mid-migration, and it's just not being used yet, but we know it's going to be used in a month when we go live. We also have an option called snooze mode, right? So when we turn that on, what happens is you're able to select certain notifications, and then you can snooze them. And basically what that says is snooze it for, so we plan on going live in a month. Let's snooze it for a month. What that'll do is it will hide those recommendations for the next month. Won't even tell you about it. Then in a month, it's gonna relook at that resource, and if it's still underutilized, it will pop back up on the report. If it's being utilized at that point, it'll just never pop up again.
It won't show the recommendation. Yeah.
So you can do this for any amount of time. Forever is an option. I never recommend selecting forever because we can. If you know forever future, please reach out to me. There's a few things I'd be curious to know about. But typically speaking, right, 1 month to 3 months, maybe 6 months in certain situations. Very rarely would we ever want to say this is always not going to be the case. There are a few instances, right, where there's some action that the machine is waiting to happen, and we never know when that action is going to come, but when it does, it has to be ready. And in those instances, a forever may make sense, but I would still tend to say, right, we want to keep that at like a 3 months, 6 months, and then just reevaluate when that time comes to see if that's still the case. We could have changed architecture in the application or anything along those lines to not be worried about that.
Yeah, and there's also a note section, a comment section that you can make on each of these resources as well, next to the name, the resource ID. There's a little quote box you can see there. So if you click on that, you can actually make a little note to say like, hey, let's say for this one, you're saying you do want to snooze it. And so you can say waiting for migration, snoozing 1 month. And that kind of gives us a little bit of extra context as well as to, what you guys are doing and, the reasoning behind it as well. Because we can still see the items that are snoozed. We can change the filter to make those be unhidden, but, it gives us that extra context.
Yeah, so here's a more curious example, right? So this is something that's actually being used, but it's just not being used as much as the capacity is there. So this one's saying, right, we could downsize this. We have the one peak that would be over there, but this isn't the end all be all. This is just a recommendation. This one is the most extreme, where it's saying don't do anything. So this just shows some of the recommendations on a more active box. And like Spencer had mentioned, right, we can't tell if this spike is an anomaly or something that is always going to be. And does it need to happen all at once? Like those are things we need your eyes and knowledge to be able to tell us. Right. So, and with that, while you're going through this, another helpful feature is you can come in here, and create a cloudability issue, right? So you say, all right, I want to look at this, select a project, right? If you're brand new, you can create a new project, right? So, app 1 optimize. And then you can assign it to yourself. And then what we're able to do is actually track any savings associated with that resource from now on, right? So even if you go and do a right size different from what Cloudability suggested, right? So Cloudability says cut the resources by 50%. You say, I'm not comfortable with 50, but I'm okay with 30%, right? I'm okay with a 30% change. You're able to now track that, and it will always track the realized savings we have. And we do report this, and we're hoping in the near future to actually start being able to give out rewards for biggest savers in a month as well. So more information on that coming, but just a little extra incentive to save money.
Yeah, I mean, it's a perfect way to have your name right next to something that says you saved, $10,000 or something like that. It's an easy proof to say, yeah, I'm good. I'm saving money.
If you want senior leadership to see your name next to a dollar amount of saved dollars, this would be one easy way to make that happen, right? Because this will be reported on to Mike and all of his directs on a monthly basis as well, on our monthly FinOps review calls. So that's some of the right sizing stuff. Another useful area, I'm just checking to make sure we have no questions. So this takes past spend and forecasts where we're going to end up, right? So what this is saying, right, you can see, and this is at the total level, right? Obviously, to make use of this, we create these different views. We are setting up the first 15 apps to go live on this in the next few days. So we've chosen the top 15 applications across the firm. We are confirming the forecast we have with finance, and anything that is forecasting to spend over our financial budget, Mike is approving or denying as we speak. And then we will go live with the first 15. If you want to be included sooner, so we'll call that the soft go live on the alerts. If you want to be included sooner, reach out. Happy to set you up whenever. We're just not planning on expanding this to the full app stack for a few weeks after the soft launch with the top 15, just to work out any bugs or kinks with the process. But what you can do here is, you could say that last month, right, GCP spend 1.6. This is what we spent month to date. We're estimating this. So it's estimating an increase of 229,000. So
Compute engine, yeah.
Exactly. So this is just telling you where we're headed. You can subscribe. Let's do it this way. Sorry. So you have to actually be in a view to do this, right? But if you're in your application, you can see where it is and where it's going. Once we start adding budgets, what's going to happen, right, is that if you are forecasted to spend above the budget, you will be notified as soon as you're forecasted to spend above it. So that way, if it's not intentional, we can get ahead of it instead of reacting at the end of the month. Spencer, do you have something to say?
No, I was agreeing with you.
Okay, perfect. So like I said, first 15 apps going live in the next couple of days here. We're just working on shoring all the information up with finance. If you want to be part of this, please reach out. We can set up the view and the budget for your application, and you will be notified the moment you're expected to exceed the budget that has been set, right? So the budget that has been set is what's in the financial budget at the time, or if you need to increase your spend for any reason, whatever's approved at the SSPR. Most of the other things in here, so there's tons of reports, right? So if you're more interested in looking at data, right? So you can see there's lots of GCP specific, right? GCP Compute Engine discounts, Cloud SQL overview, Pub Sub overview, data flow, big table, all services. And then you can create a new report, right? So I've created a couple different reports. If there's something specific you want to see, reach out. We can work together to create it. You can create it yourself. It's pretty BI-esque, right? So the dimensions would be what you're reporting on. So you can do anything from like instance family, compute usage type, the operating system, reservation ID, usage type, account name, or whatever you want to do. And then you can also do this by tag. So these are the tags we pull in: application, business unit, cost center, department, environment, DRN, right? But we also have what are called business mappings, right? So the business dimensions. So what we do with those tags is we enrich the data. So we're actually bringing in CI technology leaders, so the CTO plus one, who it's owned by, what the name of the application is, right? So you don't have to go in here and filter through by just the 4-letter DRN. You can actually see the name of the application. Right? So you can do this by metrics, right? There's cost. Cost is going to be the same across these in the GCP space. You can look at sustainability. You can look at usage, right? So how much was reserved, how much was used. So you can drill into all this detail, and then you can change what time frame you want to look at, name it, and then you can save it. And then you'll always be able to come back. And then once you've saved the report, you can also share it with your team members, right? So if we look at one that's actually there, you can subscribe to it. So say, hey, send me this report every day. I want to see any impacts. Or you can share it and give either edit or just view rates to anybody else within the organization. So with that,
we're hoping you guys everyone can use this data to kind of help give more of, day-to-day visuals, because again, this cloudability data, it pulls it multiple times a day. So this data is as fresh as you can get it, basically. Typically, I know Google has the caveat of, our data is within, don't trust the data within the last day, but maybe past 2 days is the most accurate. But even then, this data is probably as close as you're going to get to real-time data from Google. So this is going to be, if you turn something on and you want to see what the impact is, you can go on here and see that impact. Give it a day maybe, but you can see that impact very, very close to real time to be able to see what the impact is for, turning on new nodes or something like that, or even saving money. So hopefully this data will be able to help everyone kind of realize the impact of what they're doing and kind of see the response as well, and give everyone credit as well for being able to optimize and give you guys the points for it. Because honestly, the FinOps team is we can do some of the work in terms of saving money, but it's up to all of you all in the field, boots on the ground, hands on keyboards, who are the real heroes of kind of saving money here. So hopefully these tools will give you the things you need. But yeah, with that, are there any questions? If not, this is all we have for today. Again, if any of you want any hands-on training with your team for cloudability or any of the Apptio suite, let myself or Travis know. Again, we're happy to give that one-on-one training, lunch and learns with your guys' teams. Again, this is recorded, so we'll be saving this as well. By the way, just a note for all of you as well, all of the trainings that we have here are on Workday. They're provided to the L&D team, and they upload them to Workday. So if you go into the Workday training and just type in Google, all of the sessions that we've had for the skill blitz are on Workday for all of you to be able to peruse at your leisure. So, or share with your team. So just a note for all of you. But if not, then I think we are good for today. Again, don't forget to fill in our survey and any thoughts about the session or things you'd like to see next. We have a looker session next week. We have future ones as well on Code Assist and GCVE. Those are going to be our future ones that we have coming up. So keep an eye out for those as well. But other than that, if there's no other questions, thank you all for joining. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lynette.